All right, let's get started. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce us real quick. So, welcome back, Latinas in Transformation. We are so excited for today's episode because we have actually a special guest here. We have Jasmine Escalera here with us, and we're so excited because we will be diving deep about reinvention and all the good, juicy stuff that will hopefully support you in your own journey as you're navigating the new year. As some of us are resetting, and it may be taking a little longer than what we're expecting, but I wanted to introduce a special person because I've been following her journey for quite some time already. We've been able to connect via Instagram and just seeing your posts on LinkedIn and all the spaces that you've been in, Jasmine, has been truly inspirational. But I know that recently you've pivoted into this reinvention title. And so before our listeners get to know your story, I want people to know, who's Jasmine at her core? What
Mm.
does she stand for? So I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to you.
Wow. First off, thank you, ladies, for the invitation to join you. Just even before, I don't know if any of your listeners know this, but even before we jumped on into the recording, you had us all do just these exercises to help open up the space. And I have to say that no podcast that I've ever been on has ever done anything like that. And so it's the reason why I really gravitated towards wanting to be here with you all was I said this when we kind of talked about being on the podcast, that it feels almost kind of like I'm in my grandma's living room. And my grandma passed last at the end of last year, and many of the matriarchs of my family are transitioning into their next stage and leaving this world. And I have to tell you that at this moment in my life, I feel like there's no other group of women I need to be talking to, because you're really creating this environment for me where I'm almost tapping back into the essence of who I am. So to start this, to start with this question feels a little bit overwhelming at the moment, just because of everything that's going on in my life. But I
Yeah.
have to say that, who I am at my core truly is a woman who believes that we are able to live life the way that we choose to live it. And for
Mm.
so long in my life, just because of where I came from, my background, which I owe so much to, but for so long in my life, it was always about living for other people. We grew up in the projects, we grew up in poverty, and bless my parents, they really wanted me to have a better life. And so it was always about education, going to school, getting the job, finding the stable husband, having this picturesque life. And for so long, I lived for that. I lived to try to make someone else happy and to live in almost kind of trying to make other people safe instead of really understanding who is Jasmine, what does Jasmine want, what does Jasmine want to achieve, and how can she create that life for herself. And so it wasn't until I was probably in my mid 30s, after having gone through major rock bottoms, including a divorce. My career started to go into some wild directions, that I finally said, everything that I've been spoon fed for my entire life around what safety is and how to create safety for someone else to feel safe is almost kind of like a lie. That going through this, get the job, get the 401k, that doesn't mean anything. It's an external thing. But how do we really tap into who we internally are to create the life we desire? So I would say me at the core of who I am is a woman still seeking her internal desires, still trying to find out who she truly is and what she truly wants, and creating that in the external space, and really helping for other women to realize that you get to live this life however you so choose to live it. And however that is, we get to create that for ourselves. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy path. My
Mhm.
transformations and my reinventions have not been easy. And I'm sure we'll go into all the crazy that goes into that. But it's not that it's easy to do that, but it is truly what we are here to do, is to create life for ourselves. And that's truly who I am at my core.
Girl, I felt that. I felt every piece of that message because, as being the eldest daughter, I feel like a lot of us, and again, I'm speaking as the eldest daughter, right? Because that's my experience. But everything that you just said is something that I also too bought into. I thought that everything that my family set out to be, like how you described that so beautifully, what we were spoon fed, and we like believe that this is the version of safety. But at the end of the day, to some capacity, that's not authentic to who we are or what we want in our
Mhm.
life. And so we're navigating on autopilot until we one day have these bursts of awakenings where we're like, yo, what am I doing? Like, this is not
Mhm.
how I want to live my life. And I think it's so beautiful that you mentioned that, because there are still some of us who are walking on autopilot, who still feel that it's okay to walk that because they haven't stepped into that awakening, or they haven't chosen to hear that little inner whisper that's pushing them or nudging them to do that. So, based on all of the events that you've talked about, like, how did you know it was time to pivot out?
Mhm. Hmm. I think, the what I truly believe is that we all have an internal voice. We all have that little iris, that little Jasmine. We all have those little parts of ourselves internally that are speaking to us. And we just don't hear it. Sometimes we choose not to hear it, and that's because those voices are telling us to do things that we presume to be scary or hard or stepping out of our comfort zone. And of course, that can trigger a lot of different feelings within us. Sometimes we just can't hear it because there's so much external noise. But there is an internal voice within us that once we start to tap into it, it's almost kind of like we can't see it any other way anymore. So I would say that my internal voice started to speak to me so loudly after my divorce. And what my divorce really taught me, was that I was being so inauthentic to myself, like completely
Mm,
inauthentic to myself. And I think it was almost kind of like the domino had to fall, right? That one domino had to fall, and then it was like, oh hell no, we can't continue to do this. But the internal voice that we have that is speaking to us, it's so incredibly important to tap into that. And I just think that, the way that society is built, and especially for women, we put a lot on our shoulders and we have a lot of expectations on us. We have a lot of priorities. We have a lot of things we have to step into and take care of. It's almost kind of like we're filling so many roles that we don't give ourselves the time to really tap into that inner voice and to really hear it and to listen to it. So for me, it was listening to that internal voice. For me, it was realizing that I was in a career that, although had brought me a lot of success, I wasn't connected to. That I was in a marriage where I was completely inauthentic to myself. I had married a man and tried so hard to want to have children and the white picket fence and the dog and all of these things, and really realized that all my heart and soul wanted was to love myself enough to give myself freedom and peace. That's it. And what freedom and peace meant to me was having a different kind of life and a different kind of lifestyle. So I think that sometimes what happens could be very similar to me, where you try on all these different outfits, you try on all these different things, and you realize, like, this just doesn't fit, like this just isn't me. But what's really important is that when you feel that you start to look inward and you start to ask yourself the deep questions of, well, if this isn't me, I'm going to honor it. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so happy, right? Sometimes we don't
yeah.
give gratitude to the things that don't work. It's great, wonderful. You tried it on, it didn't work. But then if this doesn't work, how can I start to ask myself really deep questions as to, how do I really want to live? What I really love to do as well is to tell people, like, go on Instagram, and when you see something that triggers some form of jealousy in you, fantastic. That's something that you likely want, or that's something that you likely want to experience. If you're at work and you're thinking, oh man, I would have loved to work on that project, fantastic. That's probably an experience that you want to have. So instead of shying away from the moments where you see other people having the things that you want and you get triggered, instead lean into those, because that's telling you something about what you desire. And in this lifetime, we should all give ourselves the capacity to both desire and receive those desires.
Mhm.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. Go
And
ahead.
if I may, I love that. I love that. I'm always reinventing myself. I'm always a big believer that that's what life is. We're constantly growing. So
Mhm.
how do I pivot into this new stage that I'm in, right? So we have many stages and many more stages to go. But I think for um for me it comes easy in defending what this new reinvention is, but for some people that may not come easy. And I know
Mhm.
for a lot of people they have to, stand up to your family, stand up to your culture, stand up to the norm. How do you like navigate that?
That's such a great question because I think that you're absolutely right, right? Like for so long, I didn't want to, bust the bubble of my life because I had a very high paying job. I was a director, I had a husband. From the external world, I was happy, and my parents couldn't have been happier. They were just thrilled that, I had gotten out of the projects, I was making good money, I had, to them what they thought was a good husband. I had the stability and safety that they really wanted me to have. When I
Mhm,
decided to give that all up and become a coach, what I truly decided to do was to show my family my happiness, was not to fight them along the way. It was not to try to tell them this is the right way for me to live. It was truly to show my happiness every single day and to be honest with them about, yeah, I tried that on, but it didn't work for me. And now I'm just going to do I'm just going to do me. So I remember, when I was terrified to tell my parents that I was going to become a coach. And when I finally did, my dad like was just kind of like floored. When I
mhm,
finally told him I got my first paying client, he was like, people pay you for this? Like they're going to actually give you money for this? Now, this is an old school Latino man, right? Like he just
Mm-hmm.
knows go to work, do a 9 to 5, collect a paycheck, come home. There is no such thing as starting a business or entrepreneurship. Now, my parents are my biggest advocates. And that is because every single day they see how freaking happy I am with my life choices. Does that mean that it's all working? No, but they see how genuinely happy I am. So sometimes it's not about getting permission from anyone or fighting anyone to see your side. Sometimes it's just about living your happiness and allowing for other people to see that happiness and to see it as the most beautiful thing for you. So that's what I chose to do. I chose to not fight them. I chose to not push them. I chose to not try to get them on my side,
mhm.
but to
Yeah.
truly live my happiness.
I love that.
I love that. No, and I love that you mentioned that piece also about giving yourself permission and not feeling that you need to convince them or to drag them along the way. Because I think so many of us, we're seeking for that validation where if we're going to pivot, especially knowing that this might sound like you're crazy, right? In the moment where people are not going to understand your vision, your heart, and why you want to move in this direction, but giving ourselves permission, because I know we've talked a lot about this in previous episodes on how important it is for us Latinas, first generation, whoever you identify to be in this journey, where maybe it wasn't welcome to give yourself permission back at home. And as you're growing up, or like you said, Jasmine, finding out maybe in your mid 30s that it's your or early 30s that I'm finally giving myself permission for the first time in my life. And that can also be so freaking scary because you're betting on yourself.
Mhm,
And that takes so much courage. Like every time I hear you speak, I'm like, courage, like the
mhm,
courage to reinvent, to step boldly into this new chapter of your life and being okay and accepting that I tried everything on. I tried that different style. I tried that lifestyle, but it just didn't work out for me. And I'm okay with that. I love that you're accepting that as well, because so many of us, we don't show ourselves self compassion during that time. We tend to beat ourselves up and say, like, but you should have made it work. You work so hard. Because, Jasmine, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a doctorate too, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
oh
it's
wow.
like you've worked so like you are the achieving Latina who has done so much in her life, and it's so easy for us to, you know, be hard on ourselves when we've worked so hard to do so many things, and now we're like how Lupe's mentioned before, we're cleaning up the whiteboard and starting
Mhm,
fresh. Like I just wanted to give you
Yeah.
so much kudos because again, it's not easy. Like you said, like this reinvention journey that we desire to go on, it's not rainbows and butterflies all the time, but it's worth it because
Yeah.
of being able to finally allow yourself to step into that authenticity, to experience the truest desires of your heart and the joy that you're seeking for. And yeah, I think about that at, it's my personal like little visual of me being 85 and my grandbabies running up to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, grandma, did you do everything you wanted to do?" And being able to say yes. And I feel like you're walking on that path where when one day you look back or you're looking at that screen in the movie theater of your life, you're going to be like, man, I freaking did it. And I just wanted to give you so much kudos because, and to congratulate you and honor you because, again, it's not easy, but you're showing and paving a way to other women that it's still possible for us to go after what we really want. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
honor you in that space.
Thank you so much, and I accept all of that. And I have to tell you that I got a little teary when you were saying it because, I would have never called myself courageous. Like that's not a word I would have ever used. And it's so funny that you're saying this because that's exactly how I'm starting my book is I would have never used that word for myself, like ever. Um, a hustler, like a hard worker, someone who can grind it out, someone who, when they fall, they pick themselves back up. Sure. And I think that's the New Yorker in me, and I think all of you ladies understand that. But
I do.
yeah, but to say that I am courageous, like I would have never considered that for myself. And it wasn't until I moved to Miami and it wasn't until the way that I did it, and someone, I moved down here and I was having a conversation with someone discussing the story, and they were like, damn, you're very courageous. And I was just like, what? Like, and now really going back to the beginning of the conversation where you said, who am I? Like, what I really hope is that I can ignite that courage in other women. And you mentioned also, coming, I actually saw your visual, by the way, when you were
Mhm.
describing it of you,
Mhm.
85 with your grandbabies. I saw it. That was miraculous. Um, but yes, I hope that when I get to that stage where I am transitioning to the next phase, that I can look back and I can say I lived for myself. Like that's my biggest hope in this entire journey is that I get to say that no matter what ups, no matter what downs, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, that I truly lived for me. And I feel as though I am doing that now, but I'm still attached to some external things that I need to break, and that's my next journey. But yeah, it's so beautiful to think about, getting to that stage of life and really being able to say, I lived for myself, I did everything that I wanted. That's what this life is about. It's so about that to me, and that invigorates me. And I hope that anyone who's listening, that kind of triggers them to think about, am I really truly living for myself?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think your courage, like I had the same thoughts, Edie's. Like as she's talking, I'm like, she's so courageous. Like immediately that's the word that comes to mind. And hearing your story and like all your rein times of reinventing and just not being afraid to go for what makes you happy, I can relate a lot to that. And so hearing your story, I'm just like you, and I'm also a New Yorker. So obviously the courageous part doesn't come natural. I'm just like, oh, I'm just a hustler. I'm just looking for the next thing. I'm just looking for a peace of mind. And you don't think of that word. So I think for our listeners who are also maybe going through the same transitions, can reflect and hear that that is you being courageous. So
Yeah.
therefore, you are courageous. And I love that for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. And Jasmine, like as you're reflecting, because I see you like in so many different waves right now of like going through your journey, but then being like, oh my gosh, like the feels on that and recognizing yourself. Um, because I think that again, this is a space where we want to honor your journey because we're like, yo, again, not everybody does this. And I love that you're also allowing us to feed you the words that we see and just like the energy because again you could be in a place where you're like no I'm not going to receive that I'm not courageous but thank you again for being able to receive and to really take in what courage means. But for the listeners that are out there that are like, yo, I want to be like her. I need to figure out some tangible tools, or how do I get into that energy and mindset that she decided to shift? Because again, I heard also like you up and left New York. It's not easy to up and leave what you consider home. It's not easy to leave everything that you knew with it, with your career, with the marriage that you had. So what are some tools when you look back where you're like, this is what really helped me, and this is someone else's maybe opportunity to use something similar, or this particular tool that will help them in their reinvention journey if they're seeking for that?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many things, and still are continually so many things that go into the toolbox. You know, what I kind of tell people is that if you want to undergo a reinvention, so if you really feel like, okay, I need some change in my life, the number one thing to kind of ask yourself is what what's my biggest desire right now in terms of my change, right? Like, what's the thing that I desire the most? And to really create a sort of focal point, because what can often happen, and this sort of happened to me, was that, you know, there was a point where I looked at my life and every single thing needed to be changed because it felt so incredibly inauthentic to who I was. But I couldn't change everything at the same time. And so I think it's really important to ask yourself, what would I like to focus on in terms of a transformation, in terms of a reinvention, in terms of change that would have almost kind of like a ripple effect? So if I
Mhm.
focused on this area of my life, that it would almost kind of ripple out to other areas. What we have to realize is that no matter what we focus on, what area of life or what we want our reinvention goal to be, we are going to transform, right? You're going to transform your mindset. You're going to transform your confidence. You're going to transform who you are. You will not ever be the same person. So that's going to create a ripple effect in all areas of life. So don't be overwhelmed if you say, oh my gosh, I need massive change. No, just focus in on something that you truly believe is within your capacity and capabilities to focus on. Dig into that and identify what you would desire your life to be in that area. Once you get there, you have to understand, what's my story? What's my narrative that is holding me back from achieving this? That's where those kind of limiting beliefs, those poo-poo thoughts, those dirty mindsets will start to come in. What I truly believe is that action cannot be taken in replace of transformation. So what that means is that we can't just do without transforming our minds. I can give
Mm.
you something to do, but if you don't believe you have the concept to do it, if you don't believe you have the capacity to do it, or if you're holding on to some kind of limiting mindset around it, not only will you likely not take the action, but you'll half-ass it because you're not fully invested in it. So it's
Mhm.
really about, what is my focal area of life that I really want to dig into? What's the transformation that I want to achieve? And then really digging into, what's the limiting narrative, limiting story, limiting mindset that I have around that? Because it's essential for you to dig into that. That doesn't mean that you can't take action simultaneous to working on your mindset. In fact, they work in tandem. So as I
Mhm.
grow my belief in self, as I clear those limiting mindsets, I will actually take more action and bigger actions, because my belief in self will start to accumulate such that those actions will become bigger. So, but you gotta dig into that. And what I want individuals to understand, and this is something that like is backed by science, and it's real. We, as Black and Brown people in this country, we are holding on to generations of trauma.
Mhm.
Generations. So your limiting stories and your limiting mindsets might not even be yours. It might not even be something that you've accumulated in your lifetime, but in fact something that you've accumulated based off the lifetimes before you. So you have to really conceptualize and think about that. Some of these things are so ingrained in who we are that we have to really do some serious digging into them. So I like to
Yeah.
think of mindset work as like an onion, where I'm peeling the external layer, but best to believe that there's another one under there and another one under there and another one under there. And it can be a challenging sort of work to do, but it's the most transformative work to do. And you cannot undergo any reinvention or transformation without focusing on that.
Mhm.
Mm, I
That's
love
amazing. I love that. Can I carry you in my pocket everywhere I go?
If I fit in there.
yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. No, I love the analogies that you gave because Lupe is also the analogy queen here. Like she always is dropping amazing analogies. And I love that you said that too, that it takes layers. And it takes time to discover those deep inner work that we really have to do. Because a lot of us, I think, when we think of transformation, we're expecting these radical changes the next day, but it takes time. And I love that you emphasize on that and that we need to peel the layers because even though we peeled one off, it does not mean that that's where the work is done. Like we still have to keep going to really understand those deeper beliefs, that deeper mindset, all of those different things that are holding us back, like why it's happening, right? Because, like you said, are holding, especially as women, we hold so much of all of our past generational traumas. And it's it's kind of crazy to think about it that way because we're all still healing and carrying so much. And so
Mhm.
we should definitely be very gracious with ourselves, take the time that's necessary. And like you said, just allow ourselves to go inwardly at our own capacity, because that's something that you also mentioned, at your own capacity. And I want to say that word again, like heal at your own capacity, because that's going to allow you to see the true transformation over time. So thank you for sharing that, because I feel like a lot of us need that reminder as we're going in this year, as we're trying to transform our mindset, or as we're trying to heal those limiting beliefs that are ingrained in us so deeply. And for those of us who are trying to reinvent and are assessing our lives right now, maybe wanting to step in courage with leaving that career, or being able to ask for what they want in their career, or to ask what they want in their marriage, or to, not care about what their family has to say and step into whatever it is that they're truly desiring because that's what they want for happiness, right? Like, I want us to all take the time to do so. And I think that you just, again, described that so beautifully. But yeah, no, we definitely need Jasmine somewhere, or at least like a little walkie-talkie where we're like, hey, yo, Jasmine, can you
Oh,
please
I
give
love
us
that
the
one.
tip of the
Yeah.
day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Roger, we got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would a tip of the day. That sounds cool. I should probably do something like that.
I got you. I got you. Yes.
A great
But
idea.
yes, but even talking about all the many reinvention stories that you've had, which one will you have to say that is your most deepest connected moment where you're like, man, that reinvention story still hits me every freaking time? What would that be for you?
I think that every reinvention that I've gone through has taught me a major life lesson, a huge life lesson. I would say that I don't know why this is, but my divorce has been coming up a lot more recently.
Mm,
Wow.
And it's probably because I've come to the place of true self love and self acceptance.
mm,
So, I kind of mentioned earlier, I was in this marriage and I was trying to force myself to live a certain kind of life that I thought we're supposed to live as women. And I finally, at the age of, 42, or this probably happens when I was like 40 years old, I finally declared I never want to have kids. I never wanted to have kids. It was never anything that I wanted to do in my life. And I forced myself to be in a marriage and try to be that woman who was gonna, be at home and take care of the kids and do, and oh my Lord, that was just not the
mhm.
right thing for me. There's a
Yeah.
lot of other reasons why my marriage didn't work out, but one thing that I will say is that transformation was so pivotal to me because it truly allowed me to start stepping into the version of myself that I really wanted to be as just a woman, right? Just as a woman in this world. I don't want to have children. I'm okay with different kinds of types of relationships that fit me and my lifestyle because guess what? I love living by myself with my dog. It's absolutely wonderful. So, you know, it's allowing for me to almost kind of explore who am I as a woman? And as a woman, who I am today, who's the best partner for me? And so I think that very often we try to mold ourselves to create partnership when truly what we need to do is to be ourselves and find the right partnership. So that was a really big transformation for me, and it ignited a lot because it was almost kind of like I was in a relationship where I didn't know myself. And so I really had to find out who I was. And now self-acceptance is something that I talk a lot about, and I want to talk even more about it. You know, this idea and concepts of self-love and self-acceptance, and what does that truly mean? And can you love yourself enough to live life not just your way, but to almost kind of anticipate and expect that all of the relationships around you will then form into that, instead of thinking I have to change myself to create the relationships, but to truly be able to stand in your power, grounded in your power, and say, I am this, and I know that the world is going to form around me.
Mm, mic drop. That was so good. It is so true. Yes, no, I felt that so deeply. I even felt like my belly got on fire as I heard you say, and no, it's not the coffee, y'all. For those of you who are hearing, it's not the coffee. It was literally you.
Yeah.
And I felt that deeply just because I think a lot of us, like you said, we try to mold and
Mm-hmm.
not
Mhm.
like it's time for many of us to accept and allow our becoming, our authenticity to really flourish out so we can attract and align to the right partnerships. And this doesn't even have to be romantic, it can be through
Mm-hmm.
friendships, it could be through business, right? And having people compliment your way of living. And I feel like by doing that, we just find so much more alignment and fulfillment. And as you said that, I also really believe in that we need to stop molding ourselves. And as you said that, I was like, yes, please preach, preach. And I hope that a lot of our listeners are taking that in. Like, if you are in this season of life where you find yourself molding, you find yourself trying to fit into other people's expectations, you want to make other people happy. Again, like, I give you permission to look inwardly, to accept that, that was part of the journey, but it doesn't have to be your journey anymore. And to really
Mm-hmm.
step out with authenticity and allow yourself to explore and find the most aligned relationships that will make you continue and stride and move forward with that authenticity like process, because it takes time. You're still gonna get to learn so much about yourself, like you said, Jasmine, but I love that you said that. So I'm putting it out there. No more molding. We're all stepping into our authenticity and bringing in more of those aligned relationships that we want. Because I thought that was so beautifully said. We need more women that step into that power and that's they believe that that's possible for themselves. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I want to say that I would say that that's probably one of the most challenging things to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it goes against biology. So by me saying like I am going to be authentically me no matter what, I don't give an F what anybody thinks and the world is going to mold to me. It's essentially meaning that if I have to stand alone, I'm going to stand alone. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? Biologically, you're triggering an immense amount of fears because we were not meant to be lone wolves. The lone wolves back in the day would die, and even now still,
Yes.
right? So it triggers a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. But one of the biggest things that I've really realized is that I need to have certainty that no matter what, I can trust myself. I can
Mm-hmm.
trust something greater than myself. And I can have so much trust and faith that no matter what, the world will mold to me. It may take some time. And during that period of time, what can be really scary is you will be the lone wolf. You will be alone. There have been many times during my transformations where I've been so incredibly lonely. because
Mm-hmm.
there is this space between who you were and who you're becoming, where you
Yes.
will feel very alone. And
Mhm.
it's because you're navigating the bridge to who you're supposed to be. And when you navigate that bridge, you essentially have to release relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
those relationships may never come back or may transform, but they'll take time. You'll have to release a lot of things. So there's there's almost kind of like this vulnerability, this nakedness of just being 100% on your own. But in that is this amazing space for you to truly find yourself and love yourself, because when it is just you, you ain't got no other way but then to love you, to learn how to trust yourself. So I love this weird middle space where I'm transforming. I always know it's coming. I always know there's going to be a lonely period, but it's just another opportunity for me to love me. It's another opportunity for me to enjoy being with me. It's another opportunity to learn how to trust myself. And it's not an easy path, but yeah, I think that the best possible thing that you can do is to really learn how to stand on your own and trust yourself completely. And not just trust yourself, but trust in something greater than you. And that doesn't have to
100%.
necessarily be God or a religion, but there has to be some place where you say, I am so damn certain that it's going to work out, that it's okay that I stand here alone for a second.
Oof. I felt
Yeah.
that too, because that's been part of a lot of my reinvention and surrender moments where I've had to embrace being in the solitude. But the solitude is the greatest teacher, y'all. It
It is.
allows you to gain the clarity of who you are and who you are becoming. And it is scary, like you said, Jasmine, because in those moments, you start to see the true colors of people, of yourself. Like you said, releasing, whether it's material items, emotional baggage, releasing friendships that no longer serve you, releasing careers that maybe no longer serve you. It's hard and it's heavy because it's very hard for us to get out of that comfort zone because it's like your home, right? Like we're kind of like comfortable here with the snuggle blanket and then someone takes it off of me and I'm like cold and freezing and I don't know what to do with myself. But I think it's such a good point as you mentioned, right? Because yes, reinvention has its beautiful outcomes, but in the process can seem lonely and dark and sad and frustrating and anger and you're so right. I think a lot of that as we're processing through that and acknowledging that that's going to be part of the process, that's going to help our listeners be set up for more success to gain the momentum that they need and be able to at least have a guide as to what this reinvention process is going to look like for them. So thank
Yeah.
you for that too, because I think that is such a good guide for people to understand that, okay, I'm not walking into just rainbows and butterflies and frolicking in the hills or the fields, but I'm going to have to really invite myself to look at myself, my shadow self, and be able to hug her and nourish her and remind her that she's going to be more than okay, that we're going to get through it. So thank you for that. Cause I literally pictured, I don't know why, like these two people battling each other, but in reality, we're not battling. We're trying to hold her and protect her. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
This will definitely be a podcast I will go back to for my own self and constantly listen to for encouragement. So thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. So to end this up, we had some wonderful rapid questions we want to
Yes.
ask you.
Ooh, I like it. Go for it.
So the first one's going to be, what sparks your inner fire? What gets you going?
Um, this is gonna sound really woo-woo, but I moved to Miami, and then I moved to Brickell, and then I moved to South Beach. What ignites my inner fire is seeing the sunrise every day. Like
Mhm.
it's almost kind of like no matter what is happening in my life, I feel like I just witnessed a miracle.
Mhm.
So
That's
I love to take
beautiful.
that in as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Okay,
The
what animal would describe you and why?
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. I would say, I don't know why, like the first thing that's coming to my mind is an owl. And I love people watching. I love people. I think people are amazing. I love to watch them. I love to hear about what's going on in their lives. And I'm just thinking of an owl perched on a little thing with his big old eyes, just like looking around, being like, "What in the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
I would say an owl.
I
Love
love that. And last and final question, what has transformed you recently that nobody knows of?
What has transformed me recently? Oh my gosh, ladies, I'm gonna go a little bit deep into this one. A little, no one knows this. I've been shopping around for sex coaches. And the reason why, I'll tell you why.
Yes.
So, as women, and especially as single women, we are just in the masculine. And I must
Yes.
say that the biggest transformation that I have to go into next is finding my feminine self. Because when I was with my husband, he took up the man space. When I left him, I immediately stepped into that man space to protect myself, to keep myself safe, and to live this life. I have not stepped out of that man space in years. And being an entrepreneur, as you ladies know, you have to be very strategic, very grounded, very goal oriented. So I recently started shopping around for sex and intimacy coaches because I'm like, my biggest next journey is how do I actually act as a woman now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
How do I
Mhm.
embrace my femininity? How do I don't know, dance and do all of these things? So I'm
Yeah.
I'm nervous. Actually, I'm
Well,
very nervous.
yeah.
I mastered the masculine. Now I'm really looking forward to being in feminine flow. So no one knows that I'm embarking on this journey. It's very personal to me. Now everybody knows because it's on
Everyone
your
knows
podcast.
now.
But if anybody knows of a sex or intimacy coach that I should speak to, please let me know. But I'm
Actually,
so
we
excited.
do. I
We
do too.
do.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this journey. I feel very called to wear flowy dresses and I
Ooh,
don't know, to be
Yes.
sexy and like I just feel so excited about it. I'm like, wow, this is gonna be fun.
Yes,
I love
no,
that.
we need more of that. And I love
Yeah.
that you shared that so vulnerably and
Yeah.
openly. So thank you, because that again takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think more of us need to be okay with inviting that type of energy into
Hmm.
our life, especially as women. So again, that was so good. I love that. That was like a mic drop
Yeah.
in itself. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, I'm claiming that with you too. I think that's
Yeah.
what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thank
Man,
you
well,
so much.
yes,
Oh,
thank you so much, Jasmine. Go ahead, Lupe.
no, no, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I know that you are doing amazing work. And how can people find you if people want to work with you and they're like, man, like I want more of Jasmine's energy. I want to be a part of her community. Where can people find you currently?
I think the best way for people to find me, because I be on them streets all day long, is the LinkedIn. I be on them LinkedIn streets all the time. I'm always in the DMs. I love when people message me. You can definitely still also find me on Instagram, although that's like my play space. But if you want to reach out to me either on Instagram or LinkedIn, and I also run a community called The Courage Crew. And the Courage Crew is a community of women where we are reinventing our lives together and where I provide them with the tools, the expert resources from myself and other amazing coaches that come in. And we talk about different kinds of reinventions in all different kinds of ways. So if anyone is interested in hearing about that, you can tap in with me. There is a free 7-day trial to join that online community. And I'll continue to be doing more things. I'm really excited to announce lots more coming up. So follow me and you'll hear all about it.
Oh,
I
yes, you're
can't wait
doing
to
amazing
hear.
work.
I can't wait to hear
Yes,
what's coming.
Well, maybe
yes,
I'll have
girl.
to document my sex and intimacy coach details.
Yes,
That
please
Do
might
it.
be
Do
do.
fun.
it. Do it.
Yes, girl, please do. Because trust me, we all want to tune in with that,
Yeah.
with my cafecito and get all the cheese, man, you know?
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. It's gonna be a journey. Oh Lord.
It is. It's going to be such a good, juicy journey. Again, this is part of the reinvention, and it's just part of the journey that you're going to be walking in. And
Part
I'm
of life.
excited for you. Yeah,
Thank you.
no, I'm so
Thank you.
excited. But thank you again for all our listeners. Don't worry, we're going to link all of that stuff that Jasmine just mentioned on our show notes so you can have accessibility to her and just being able to reach out. But again, Jasmine, thank you so much for being here. We're honored to have you here, for sharing your story so vulnerably. And thank you for just keep like transforming and for dedicating that time for yourself and for your community, because I know you're doing amazing work. So I just wanted to
Thank you.
just extend my
Yeah.
gratitude to you.
Thank you. And you ladies keep doing this amazing work as well. Continue to tell your stories as a way to catalyze other people to change and continue to bring on amazing women who share theirs, because this is exactly what we need.
Mhm. No,
Thank
thank
you. We
you.
receive. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. All right. Awesome.
Okay.
And we'll end it right there, you guys. But I know, Jasmine, you got to go because you got
I
3
gotta
minutes
get
before
going.
your meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.